Kideaters vs. Zoo BoyZ, Chapter 12, Part B. Dave woke at home. He was so glad to look up into his mother's face. He enjoyed the feeling of his head on her lap, gently brushing his forehead with her fingertips. He closed his eyes. The sensation didn't last nearly long enough. Her light touch slowly grew harder. Her nails seemed to be getting longer. Their strokes got rougher until they were actually digging into his scalp. Dave searched his mind for answers. Was this some type of punishment? Was she angry that I ran away? Dave opened his eyes and looked up. It was his dad, with nails like an eagle's talons plunging into his skull. Dave screamed and fought for his life. Hightower revived him. "You're dreaming, Dave! Dave! David, honey! Dave!" She spoke softer as she spoke directly to him, his head in her hands. "Dave, David, it's just a dream, Dave. You're dreaming. It was all just a dream. It was all just a dream. A dream, that's all. Just a dream, David." He had no recollection of the conch on his head, knocking him out cold, nor did he recall his body splashing in the pond, where he began to sink. He was oblivious of the Major jumping in and pulling him out, saving his life. Major did CPR on him until he was breathing again and his heart beat on its own. This was Dave's first time having a full-grown woman's lips on his, other than his mother's, when he was a baby. Now the real, actual sound of choppers was literally coming through the CB radio from within the backpack. Hightower scrambled to get to it like some scurry to answer an important phone call. Her voice was frantic as she reported in. Yes, we're here. We got all the animals we could contain except the octopus and, She hesitated, glanced at the boys, then continued. "And there are, other much larger, gigantic creatures we'll have to have a larger team to capture, possibly even a SWAT-like team who knows how to handle large beasts. Over." She looked at the boys, dirty faces, looking beyond exhausted, neglected, and defeated. They had had enough. So had she. Her radio command barked back. "You got to get every creature there. Over." She quickly shot back at them, but not nearly as loud as they did. "That mission is impossible. You're risking the lives of adolescent boys. You have accountability and repercussions and consequences to consider here. Over." Hanson's aircrew insisted. "When we arrive, give us what you got, but you have to get more. We'll be back for more. End of discussion. Over and out." The transmission stopped. She wouldn't let it go at this point. Major squeezed the transmission button and pleaded, "Maybe give this team a rest, then let us come back for more. Before you fumigate or disintegrate everything on this island, let us go at it again later, for one last time. Please, please. Imagine the money these and more odd creatures will bring in. Over." That hit those in charge where it hurt the most, in their wallets. She waited just a few seconds and then went on again before they could reply. "Plus human life. This Mr. Robinson Crusoe, this man, Ralph Willoughby." She waited. She wasn't finished speaking. Although she didn't say over, they came back with, "No one knows he exists. Over." Major insisted. Oh, someone knows, and that someone knows someone, and people talk." She changed her tone in hopes that they wouldn't be so indifferent. "Please, oh please, really, we can do this to some degree.
But we need shelter first. These boys need comfort, recovery, and family. We deserve at least that much. Please, let us at least retreat temporarily. Over.
There was no response. Hightower continued to fight and stand up for the boys.
I know you can still hear me. Let's talk about this Mr. Robinson Crusoe. Over.
She knew that would keep the argument alive, and if the argument continued, there was a chance for some type of compromise. It worked. They came back with,
Glad you brought that up. You think this mission's over and done with without capturing him? Over.
Major Hightower told HQ.
Yes, true. We did not capture Crusoe. These 4 boys, this team, they will tell you how hard it is. This is their second trip, and yet they still can't do all that you're demanding. You have no idea how harsh it is out here. How can we follow the demands coming from dignitaries sitting around in 3-piece suits, sitting around a boardroom where they're safe and comfortable and dry? You want us dead with no captives or alive with some? That's a double bonus. 1, you get your cash cow, and 2, you'll not be liable for the death of these children.
Ronnie grabbed the radio mouthpiece and cried out,
Death? Death? Is that your great grand plan? Death?
Dave snatched it from Ronnie and yelled,
Why not get us out of here, then blow this island up? Over.
There was no response from the other end. They wondered if they heard him. The silence was painful to sit through. They waited. While they waited, Hightower explained to the kids. I should have told you the end game. Capture all creatures, then ignite Zoo Island with a controlled airstrike to kill anything that we may have missed. Even some plants were causing threats to humans. Some plants, John interrupted. They shoot thorns, Jeremy added, and pollen is carried by the wind to the mainland, to Southport, where we live. Hightower nodded in agreement, then spoke to them like they were adults. Men, the harsh, hard truth, as cold as it may be, is it's us or them. In saying them, she was referring to all the living things on the island. Jeremy confirmed, Too many of these creatures are kid-eaters. Finally, Mr. John Hanson himself came over the airwave. His voice was calm, smooth, silky, sympathetic, and yet the 5 of them in this zoo knew he was just being deceptive. They listened as he tried to sway them. Headquarters, the air team, and I implore you, regardless of who or how these creatures were created, they all deserve to be treated humanely. Humanly? Treated... Oh, I really screwed that up in reading this, I'm sorry. Humanely. There it is! They all deserve to be treated... Okay, sorry about that. Back to the reading. We didn't even want to use cages. Containing them is for their own good, so they can survive with more dignity than death. If humans could just learn to be more humane. Listen, just capture a few more. That may be more than a few with how well you've done so far. Remember, it only takes 1 female and 1 male to make more. He didn't want to give away any details of how he wanted to continue breeding and experimenting. He delivered his words with tact and couth. Can you please just do that? A few more, just a few more, no matter how small. Whatever you do, whatever you bring, we will greatly appreciate. Can you do that? And then we'll get you off that island. out of the zoo. And don't forget, boys, that also assures you that you don't have to finish your jail time in prison. You'll soon be back with your other friends in your own neighborhood and in the comforts of your own home, your own room, your own bed, with your whole family back together again. Over. This time, they waited to answer on their end. Hanson was smooth and used all the right words and all the right phrases and the perfect, convincing tone, but they knew he was like a snake in the grass. Ronnie made a suggestion. We could return Tina kind of like to use as like bait, not like bait to be eaten, but just to like kind of call out to capture her tribe or like the tiny tigers and ultimately her mother and get Tina back. With that kind of capture, we could count each individual tiny tiger and the mother of all those creatures. That count alone should satisfy the quota the command center is wanting to count. Major Hightower clicked the receiver to buy more time.
Stand by.
Then she looked at Ronnie. Great idea, Ronnie. Who is Tina? All four wanted to tell her, but they knew it was Ronnie's baby, so they let him give the details. She stopped him a few times to tell headquarters they were still discussing things. It was great making them wait. Finally, she got back in touch with them.
Okay, here is our offer.
She looked at the boys and gave them a wink. They still heard the sound of the aircraft hovering nearby. She spoke confidently and clearly.
Headquarters, Mr. John Hanson and all the crew, here is what we can do and what we want you to do for us. Please listen closely, or me and these boys will not only expose every dirty little secret, we will contact the National Coast Guard with this very same radio and ask them to get us off this God-forsaken island, leaving behind everything we caught.
The boys were snickering and non-verbally cheering her on. She held her finger to her lips, motioning them to stay silent. They could barely contain themselves. She smiled. Then her face went serious. Her forehead wrinkled, eyebrows dropped, and she leaned into the Citizens Band radio to proceed.
We'll get several more, not just a few, and we'll try to get the imposter, Crusoe. In return, you'll let us come home, regroup, and then return, better equipped to get even more. Our new deadline is tomorrow night. By tomorrow night, after sunset, we'll have plenty more, and you'll pick up all that we collected by that time and rescue us. We can always come back again. But right now, let alone after spending the night here tonight, we need to retreat and come back stronger than when we first came here. Roger that? Over.
She wondered what their reaction would be. She really had nothing to lose. The threats she made were real, not a bluff. And she knew that they knew she wasn't making idle excuses. Yes, they were on a secure channel where they carried out their private conversations. However, this radio was still able to make SOS broadcasts. The dead air was broken by Mr. John Hanson's voice, simply saying 2 letters, 1 word.
Okay.
On to chapter 13.